EDG 的下路一直以来都打得挺好的，因为毕竟辅助是打了很多年的一个老玩家了，然后配上一个新的 AD， 我觉得更有冲劲嘛。我觉得 EDG 的下路真的打得挺好了。我这赛季的个人目标肯定是每一个比赛都能够进到决赛的，然后肯定再去拿冠军嘛。就是首先肯定是要进入决赛，我觉得这是我一个打职业继续打的就是一个目标吧。对。
Well, that makes sense if you're Uzi. You're always going to be chasing that title if you have not picked it up just yet. There's been so many times where he's come close to picking up a championship of any sort, and it's only been All-Stars last year where he picked up the first one.
Yeah, I like how humble he is. He basically doesn't go the full way. He says, "I'm going to go into the finals and then win the championships," which is logically correct, but it sounds a little more reserved, I should say. And also, like, the funny thing about it is he never remembers iBoy's name. When I interviewed him, I asked him, who's the AD carry you're looking for? He just says, oh, the guy on EDG. He doesn't even remember the guy's name.
Did you not see our opening video comment? He says, you know what, if the young blood want to take him down, they have to go through him first. He doesn't care until someone beats him. He does not care. He's erased whatever happened last split. He says, you know what, this split, I'm still the king.
I just love that fact about him. It doesn't talk about Jackie Love, doesn't talk about iBoy by name. Like, to him, you're all the same. You're just my kids, you know? You're my imitators. I'm still the king of the league.
There's just massive disrespect coming out from Uzi, so to speak, against the opposite AD carries. However, he was right, though. It was very aggressive in the bottom lane, and he did give a lot of credit to EDG's bottom lane. It was fairly even when there was no impact coming out from the junglers or from the mid laners, and we saw some action there early, but that's not where this game was focused. Could it be where they focus next match? Because that's where we know EDG like to play around.
Yeah, I do think that for EDG, however, because I rate their mid and jungle duo a little bit weaker, I think they're going to have to make up with it through the draft phase. They need a super strong mid, they need a super strong jungler. And that's a surprising thing about Karsa. We thought he was going to be able to bully out Haro, but not on Sejuani. Sejuani's just a tank, a bunch of meat walking around. He was able to bully out an Olaf on Sejuani. That's weird. We expected the Kazakhs, and the fact that he's able to do so and get an MVP it's really bad signs for EDG.
And that was pretty much how RNG played the entire match. And we already said 8.4 is such a strong buff to any team that plays around their jungler as well as mid laner and goes for those early game skirmishes, which RNG are well known for. EDG seems like they either have to adapt to this playstyle or force RNG to play the way EDG want to.
Ooh, and that has to be a more style that's slower, that's more measured. Like we said in the previous game, EDG, they have the second lowest kills at 15 minutes. They like to take things slow. They like to let their lanes develop. And how are they going to do that is going to be the big question.
And sometimes, you know, you look at the opposition's AD carry and you say, sure, iBoy as well as Mako with some help can take these guys down nice and easy. But this is Uzi you're going up against. You can't really force plays around the bottom lane when the king is sitting across from you. The interesting thing, though, is the last time we saw EDG play, we did see them play towards the top side of the map with the help of Mako. Let's see, as we head into Champions League for game number 2, can they draft towards doing that once again? As Camille, Rakan, and Cassiopeia, the 3 bands that come out from RNG. Sejuani's taken away from Karsa in this match, as well as those 2 big tanks of Sion and Galio. First pick for RNG is going to be Ryze.
Not again. The Ryze going over to RNG. I don't understand how EDG can let this through. Now, there are a couple of counters you can go into it. You can go for the Talia. You can go for the Orianna, like Rookie likes to do, but those champions all have their weaknesses. Orianna is a much slower champion, and Talia, it's just in a 1v1 scenario, you come to late game, you still give RNG the 1v1. However, I do like that they're picking up Tristana. The way to play the bot lane in this patch is not to go super aggressive, it's actually to pick scaling champions. And what we've seen people do is that they will pick a hyper carry and then pair it with the Olaf. So if the enemy team tries to punish with something like a Varus, then they just go chop him down.
EDG also did not have much physical damage in that matchup. Me threw a Maokai and a Zia. What the heck, Karsa? Flex on him, buddy. Picks up a Lee Sin straight into EDG in game number 2. Even Uzi's giving a little bit of a smile there.
Now, I have to say that in Karsa's understanding, Lee Sin is actually a very hard counter to Olaf. He does have the early burst damage to take Olaf down before he can do sustained damage. So he's favoring that matchup even without the Tracker's Knife.
I mean, Tom Kenship was their next lock-in, trying to keep Uzi safe in that bottom lane. EDG go for more of a cross-map play champion as Talia gets picked up into Xiaohu's Ryze.
Yeah, this is what we expected. You do need that mid lane to move more, and the Talia is the pick to do that. However, like we said, this does give a late-game advantage over to RNG, where they have that Ryze split push.
Now heading into the second draft phase. This time both teams have kind of swapped things up. RNG still very cross-map focused. They've got a Tom Kenshin and a Rise. EDG now looking to try and emulate what we saw from them last. Play towards the top side of the map. Banning out Caitlyn, denying that pick from Uzi, which is so well known for.
Yeah, they're really interested in banning out hyper carries from RNG. They don't want to let RNG do what they did in the last game, which was basically sit back and never look for fights. If you put RNG on something like Varus or Kalista, which has to use their early game spike, then you have more chance to fight the 5v5.
This is also patch 8.4. Kalista has been hit with the changes to how her passive works. Now it gives her AD instead of attack speed to kind of take away the awkwardness when you get that additional bonus boost of attack speed.
That is true. So Kalista is still up in the air. I don't expect it, but they are going to ban out the two most popular AD carries.
And the two other AD carries besides Tristana that have massive natural range. The only one left is going to be Kog'Maw when he activates his Bio-Arcane Barrage. Alistar was the first ban that came out from RNG, so they're targeting Mako in the bottom lane with a Braum ban finally.
Taking away most of his melee supports. The only one left is really Shen here, or maybe the Taric. Taric still works pretty well with the Tristana.
He could also go towards the On, which was RNG's final ban in that last match, and flex it between top lane and bottom lane, or do this. That's what we want to see from EDG.
Yeah, that's the big pick from Mako. And what this allows EDG to do is basically play more passive in the bot lane. They can have Mako start the plays. They don't always have to focus there.
We've already seen when they played with Hope as their AD carry. Mako picking up the Shen support. He was able to rotate towards top side of the map and break through another lane. Oh, he's not going to do it, is he? They banned out so many AD carries.
Oh, come on. No,
the crowd is cheering for it. They're screaming for it. He doesn't lock it in. Instead, it's going to be Kog'Maw picked up.
Well, it's a safer pick. Vayne is still not seen competitively after 8.2. The nerfs hit her incredibly hard. So Kog'Maw is the easy answer. You do win your lane more, and you also have the Tahm Kench to back you up.
Seems like EDG almost forced him onto this champion with the composition that RNG have picked up. You don't usually want to see an Ezreal paired into a Tahm Kench in the bottom lane. Final pick for RNG, however, is going to be a Vladimir heading into the top lane for Let Me. Now, do EDG flex this Shen pick?
This does give Rumble over to EDG, and we know Ray can play that champion. It's a super hard counter. They're letting Ray off. They're going to put him on Riven?
Ooh. First we see the Vayne hover. Now we're seeing a Riven hover. Come on, don't do this to me. We already got a Lee Sin locked in here. I'm already action-packed in this match.
I want to see it. Come on, Ray. Don't go on a tank.
You could try and take it to Let Me. Ray has been the facilitator. It wasn't but he locks it in. We're going to get a Riven in the top lane for EDG.
Now, it's our second Riven, actually our third Riven, sorry, in the LPL so far. We've seen Jinnu play it. We've also seen a Riven jungle already. So it's not a new pick so far in the LPL, but it's still a high pick.
We know that it's one that is picked up into Gangplank. Haven't seen too much Gangplank in patch 8.4. However, EDG, last time that we saw Ray playing a playmaking champion topside of map paired up with Mako to support, they're going to leave iBoy alone, and this time we can really see them try and take the skirmish to RNG on the top side.
I like this adaptation. Look at that top lane from EDG. What combination is going to win a Riven versus Olaf top lane? That's such a mean and menacing top lane. I like that they are able to shift their focus from iBoy away and into the top lane with Ray.
And when you look at the standings in the LPL at the moment, yes, top of the table, it's going to be the likes of IG, Snake, or even Rogue Warriors who are leading the charge. And even though these two teams didn't have had shaky starts to this split so far, these are still the two giants, world's representatives for the LPL. On top of that, they were the finalists last year, where we saw a fantastic best-of-5 series during the summer split. Now they're going up against each other. It's the only time, Clement, that we are going to see these two teams face off across one another during this cross-conference.
And there's such a high chance that we see these two teams face off in the playoffs. Remember that we do play, you do play second from third, second from the east and third from the west. That's how our playoff structure works. So with RNG on a lower seed and EDG on a higher seed, there's a very high chance that these two teams meet. This is a playoff preview.
And we've seen these two teams change up how they've drafted. We've got a Lee Sin picked up by Casa. We have a Riven heading into the top lane. EDG don't want this to end at game number 2. They want to take it to game 3. And we're going to get on to Summoner's Rift to see if they can do just that, because RNG looks so dominant in game 1. Can they do it for game 2?
EDG, however, are able to change up their strategies with that Riven pick in the top lane. They also have mid priority this time.
The stadium here at the Super Brand Mall, the LPL arena, is packed today to watch these two giants face off against one another. We already know that they said they were going to put on a good show, and they already have in game number 1. It was RNG's way of playing the match, though. It was all about the 2-on-2 skirmish. It was all about Kasa and Xiaohu working together and unlocking Let Me in the top lane. This time around, we question, can EDG force their playstyle? They're going to swap back to what we saw from them earlier on, and they have done that. Now we can see them try and take it to RNG.
What's so interesting about EDG's composition is that they could still go towards the bot lane. Kog'Maw, even though it does have a good lane against the Tristana, it's still a very immobile carry. So I wouldn't be completely surprised to see Haro go to that lane once more, though.
Some interesting Keystone runes picked up here. We have the Lightning Bolt. I can't remember what it's named anymore. Electrocute coming out for Kasa on his Lee Sin. Kleptomancy Vladimir in the top lane. It's not the first time we've seen that picked up. Should have the Spell Thief's Edge as well as a Glacial Orb being picked up by Tom Kench in the bottom lane.
Oh, that's really brave from Let Me. You're going against a Riven.
Ooh, that's already some early damage. Aftershocks. Not going to connect, but still very scary when Riven picks up that Keystone rune. Any proc from the W or the last Q will activate that.
I don't think you really want to be trading frequently with the Riven, which is what users of Kleptomancy usually want to do. Interesting choice from him right there. I'm really interested about his choices to go there. We usually see something like Sorcery or Unsealed Spellbook, which would make a bit more sense for me.
And there are the runes that Ray has picked up, even going for the Gathering Storm as well as Transcendence. Making sure that if this game does go late, he'll be able to scale up nice and easy against RNG. Hits level 2 first, puts a ward down to make sure that Kasa is not making his way into the top lane.
I do think Ray might be thinking about the later game where he can actually split push against Let Me once he gets those sustain items. He shouldn't be afraid of the Vladimir.
Haro was able to find Kasa. Kasa ward jumps away to make sure he doesn't get locked down by any of the axe throws. EDG still looking to try and make good trades against Ming here. In fact, going all in against the Tom Kench. He's incredibly low. Heal's been used by Uzi. iBoy will be able to jump away though, and EDG say, you know what? We're going to take down your support.
That looks like a bit of miscommunication from RNG. If you look at UZI, he actually wasn't firing until very late into the trade. About 2 or 3 seconds have gone past before he started auto-attacking. So I guess they just didn't expect that.
EDG showing they can still go towards their playstyle, dominating the bottom lane, even though it's Uzi as well as Ming playing down there. Taking a look at what Let Me has picked up to go up against Ray, though. Starting with that Kleptomancy, you can see picking up these zombie wards as well through domination.
Yep, you do really want to have that Feast of Blood, so you can sustain better in lane. This matchup is very dangerous for Ray, for Let Me, excuse me.
Well, let's take a look at that bottom lane fight once again. Ming just gets locked down. Mako and iBoy execute this quite well.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Ming had his Gray Shield at all, and probably UZI understood that he was dead, so didn't really chime in.
No Gray Shield at level 2, instead went for the Q as well as the Eat, making sure he could keep Uzi alive, but playing too far forward. On top of that, Clement, if he's going for Kleptomancy here, he's got Ignite. We're going to see no teleport coming out from Let Me.
What? This is such a weird build. He's really stepping up to Ray. He's like, I'm not going to let you split push, man. I'm going to take one of the weirdest Vladimir builds into it. It's more of like a... It actually lacks power compared to something like the Unsealed Spellbook because you have to go into melee range with the Riven so often for the Kleptomancy to actually proc. So he's basically saying that I'm not afraid of standing up to you in lane. I'm not even afraid if you use your teleport.
Look, he's got a red pot and 3 sacks of gold, so let me be pretty happy in the top lane at the moment. But still, no teleport means how are RNG going to play across the map? They do have a Tom Kench, they do have a Rise, so they have some ways to rotate around, but not the hard rotation of a teleport.
Yeah, his team is called RNG, so I guess he can get away with those bags of gold.
We'll have to see if he does go towards the Spell Thief's Edge as well, giving him the Bandit passive as well, really trying to trade against Ray. Ray does have to be careful as well, even though it's a Riven. Any bad trade against his Vladimir means he's going to pop that Ignite, and it's going to go in his favor.
Lemmy's actually doing quite well in this lane. I'm really surprised. Very good lane control from him right there, pulling the wave into his own tower.
Gank in the mid lane though, Caster's able to jump on top of Scout. Haro's trying to collapse as well. Flash early, coming out from Talia. Instead, Olaf tries to turn it around. Caster lands that first Q, but a heal is forced to be used by Rise.
If we look at the summoners, it's a heal for a flash, so still a small lead for RNG right there.
Well, Ray sees the jungler in the mid lane, says, you know what, I'm going to go for a trade against Let Me. Let Me turns around, gets a couple of auto attacks in.
There is a lot of sustain coming out from Ray, especially in this all-in type of trades where he has his bone plating. It's much easier for him to sustain. Now, I do like what they did with Resolve. They took away the ability to take a resistance rune with Second Wind, so sustain overall is a bit weaker in the top lane, but when you have bone plating, you just have to pick your timings and you're fine.
However, EDG are going to be playing towards the bottom lane. Scout and Haro are waiting in the wings, looking to cut them off. Summoner spells are available for both Ming and Uzi, but a double flick back comes out from Scout. Ming's trying to keep Uzi alive, flashes away. Can Uzi get out alive? No, he can't. Haro lays down the lightning. Mako flies in from the sidelines as well. Ming's trying to escape, but it's not going to happen. iBoy picks up 2.
And that's the mid-jungle priority we're talking about. That's what decides the bot lane in 8.4. Without RNG, without summoners, it's really easy to pick up those clean kills. And Riven has basically been a front. It's like, okay, we're going to throw Ray in the top lane, but all of our focus is actually still going to go bot.
They're going to be able to pick up first turret off the back of that as well. EDG snowballing a nice and early lead for themselves. It's all been about the bottom lane in this matchup so far, even though we've got a no teleport Vlad and a Riven in the top lane.
Yeah, a lot of it has to go to the credit that Scout did with the minion dematerializer. He was able to leave his lane much sooner than Xiao was able to react, and they get a 4v2 in the bot lane.
I mean, Xiao has picked up his own minion dematerializer, but it's just so difficult to push in against the Taliyah in the early game.
Yep, that's pretty much the matchups we see these days. Either Ryze or Taliyah are going to be banned. They're pretty much the highest priority mid laners right now. And, well, like we said in the ban pick, with Taliyah, you do have the early roaming advantage. As Ryze, you have to wait a bit later.
He still has a couple of stacks of his own minion dematerializer, and he's using that to push in against Scout here. But Scout rotates back into mid lane, already picked up his tier. So has Xiaohu. Even the Catalyst picks up full Ryze as well. Scout will be able to pick up his first blue buff, donated over by Haro. As the rest of EDG look to set up for an Elemental Dragon, it seems, taking out Scuttle Crab, as well as pushing Vision deeper in towards RNG's jungle.
A bit of bad luck right there. They don't really want the Ocean Drake. But we should notice that because there is a teleport in the top lane for Ray, but not a teleport on Let Me side, what EDG can do is they can continue to push the bot lane because they will always have one extra member rotating in.
Which also makes sense for that early dive as well. If there's no teleport on the opposition's top laner, you throw 4 members down there, the only person who can possibly rotate down is going to be Xiaohu, and that's through a Realm Warp. So that was just a good read coming out from EDG. Now they're trying to push through the mid lane as well.
I don't understand the reasoning here from Let Me. This is such a weird build, and if we do get a chance to interview them, it's something I want to know.
Definitely. I think everyone wants to know at the moment. Whereas Kasa as well on this Lee Sin, he's going to get flicked back and taunted as well. Kasa, the MVP from last match, just gets cut down.
And that was careless. He wanted that extra minion gold and wanted to clear the wave, but EDG were there to punish. There was 3 people there waiting for him to do it.
And that's who I was going to talk about. We saw a gank coming out from Kasa, but not much. Ray, he's popped the ultimate. He's going on top of Let Me. Does have the stand united from Mako. Flashes forward, tanks the turret aggro. He has to now try and jump out. Does he have a shield? No, the last turret shot doesn't go through. EDG get a kill on the top lane.
And this is the Mako we want to see. Seeing him on Shen is a pleasure. This is his best champion by far, able to make so many plays around the map. Oh, that's tough. Good prediction from Scout.
That's who I wanted to talk about. Well, we're not going to be able to do that because top lane, this is just Ray forcing the issue against Let Me.
Yeah, and they can do it because they know they have that Shen stand united coming in as well. I feel like Let Me actually W'd a bit too early. The pull did not dodge anything really. He needed that for the ultimate, and with Shem cutting down, he was just a dead man.
Easy pickup for EDG, and really moving back towards the Lee Sin pick that's come out from RNG. We haven't seen anything from it. There were a few other jungle picks he could have gone towards, like a tank of Zac or Skarner if he needed it, but instead picks up the Lee Sin. Still just allows, this has allowed Haro to do essentially whatever he wants, which is strange because he was able to shut him down when he picked up Sejuani, a tank. Now he's got Lee Sin, a duelist, and he's not able to do that again.
Well, I do think the main difference is the mid lane priority still. Scout on Taliyah has had control over that lane, and that's the difference coming. Karsa still does believe that Lee Sin is a good matchup into the Olaf, but more of it is about the level 6 because you actually have more damage on your ultimate compared to the Olaf. The burst damage.
Oh, Let Me saw what happened last time Ray was able to get an initiation against him. Now he's got a prolonged lane to do so with the bottom lane taken down. iBoy being so aggressive. Mako's narrowly going to miss that taunt. But they're a level up. 2 levels up over Ming, a level up over Uzi. They're easily pushing through this mid lane.
There's so much pressure on EDG's side. A lot of it actually is negative pressure. If they don't see Ray, if they don't see Mako, they can be anywhere on the map, and that's really going to throttle RNG. They're basically going to stand underneath their turrets and just kind of take it for now.
Now the question really is, can EDG do what RNG did in the last match? Because they've already taken down an outer turret in the bottom lane. They've parked their AD carry, who is incredibly strong right now. 2 kills, a BF Sword and a Zeal picked up in the mid lane. They've got the Rift Herald, they've got the first Elemental Dragon. So pre-20 minutes, they only have those outer turrets left to take in the mid lane and top lane, then have to work around Baron. That's what we saw RNG execute so well in game number 1. EDG have to do the exact same thing now.
I think EDG do have the lead to finish the game, but the problem is they're going to have to go through fights with RNG. What their comp is really good at is grouping up as the 5v5. They don't have the 1-3-1 answer in their composition, so it's going to have to come out somewhere, but they're in a good position to win it.
Cast is at least able to secure his Grump there against Scout. Yes, EDG are in a good position in this match already, picking up a 3,000 gold lead for themselves. They still have multiple objectives to take down, looking like they want to try and force through the mid lane. Scout was spotted out, throws down the Talia wall, cuts off both Uzi and Ming. They're stuck behind that. Rise going to realm walk into the fight as well. Olaf has dropped down the Rift Herald. EDG already getting good chip damage on this turret. Ivoy steps up and throws up the satchel charge as well. Mako gets locked down underneath it, but Rift Herald will make short work of this. Castle looks like he wants to try and jump into the fight. Tags Ivoy, but it's not enough. EDG take down another objective.
Good push here coming from EDG, and they're going to take control of the bot side of RNG's jungle. You can see Ray on the map right now, already setting up position, taking revenge on Karsa for those red buffs lost from Haru in the past game. Unlucky for EDG, however, they don't have very good Drakes. They are looking for the mountains and the infernals, but they are getting the oceans and clouds.
Well, that means now stuck in this bottom lane. He's completed his Eye of the Watcher. He's just going to slowly farm out these minions. Ray's done a good job of pushing this in. That is a very long lane for a Riven, so he's happy to go back to base shop and move back down either into the bottom lane or force towards the top side of the map, where everybody from EDG is currently rotating towards AD carry and support. Olaf's going to head straight back in towards his jungle. Xiaohu is the one that's trying to hold the top lane at the moment.
Yep, it's the only strong point in the map right now. He can 1v1 anyone from EDG at this point, has his row completed, so he's going for the side lane duty.
And he does have the unsealed spellbook. Nobody from EDG's picked it up, so he can swap out for teleport. He can try and go toe-to-toe against the split push from EDG, but it's a Riven.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's still a Riven.
I'm really curious on how Riven is going to itemize. We have seen a different type of build. Jinnu is the full assassin build, so basically armor penetration. But for High Challenger, there are a lot of Bloodthirsters, there are a lot of sustain builds where you can keep the split push pressure up.
Well, we already have a Yomu's Ghostblade being picked up here for Ray. I believe once in the LPL, we've also seen that heavy sustain build coming out from Riven with the Bloodthirster and Ravenous Hydra, even a Mercurial Scimitar being picked up on top of that.
Just depends on how you want to build it. This is the 5v5 assassinate your backline type of Riven.
We'll have to check in on the item build later on for Riven. For now, though, does have a wave pushed into the bottom lane, which he's trying to control. Remember, Let Me has no teleport, so it's difficult for him to push up against her. EDG still focusing on the final objective that's easy to take during this time before Baron spawns. The top lane outer turret. RNG have called up 3 members, and Xiaohu has blue buff, so it's easy for him to control these waves and stop it being taken down.
But there's so much pressure being put here. Look at the mid lane. Scout can roam towards the top any moment he chooses, and so can Ray. So it could be a potential 5v3 at any moment in the top tower.
5v4 if they're lucky that Uzi's able to get up there. Remember, Let Me has no way to get up towards the top side of the map. EDG are still putting a lot of pressure on towards RNG, moving their control world line deeper in towards the blue buff, forcing them away from the top lane outer turret. That's going to fall. Next objective for them is probably going to be that Cloud Dragon. Then we're going to have a long time here, Clement, before Baron spawns, before the next Elemental Dragon spawns, where RNG can sit back, try to relax, and it's up to EDG to put on even more pressure than they currently are.
And like the previous game, I feel like RNG this time, they have to do something about the situation. If they let EDG get a smooth sailing and with the teleport lead, it's a little bit too easy to close out the game. So RNG are going to have to fight at some point to get their chances up.
And they have 5,000 gold behind, though. EDG, they love to fight. If you want to fight them 5-on-5, even if they have 5,000 gold behind, they'll say, sure. They have the lead as well.
Well, you have to do it. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. You put yourself here, you have to do it.
Well, Uzi's been able to pick up his Guinsoo's Rage Blade, so there is some team fighting potential coming out from the Kog'Maw. Iboy, however, already completed his static shift, still sitting on a BS Sword too.
And this is the man that RNG is pinning all their hope on. He doesn't have a teleport. He traded it for a couple bags of gold. So those items better make it worth it. He better have a very good late game.
He better scale up later on. Be interested to see how much gold he's actually picked up, even though Ray's been able to pick up a kill for himself on the top side. Matt, you have to think that he's still leading the charge. Hara actually chasing down inside of the jungle after the Elemental Dragon is picked up for EDG. Castle looking to try and control as much of the small camps as he possibly can before EDG pushed him underneath the turrets, and Ray actually going aggressive against Let Me in the bottom lane. Doesn't use the ultimate.
Yep. Let Me not really afraid of the situation either. No, he has a level lead, so he's basically freezing the wave here. And
Ray is close though to level 11. We'll be able to get there shortly. Lane assignments coming out from EDG is quite similar to what we saw from RNG. Sitting there, AD carrying the top lane. Scout still in the mid lane with both junglers rotating in and out both sides of the jungle. Sorry, jungle and support rotating around the jungle.
this is basically the farm up time before EDG can start doing the Baron bait. There's still 3 minutes until that objective comes up. What they're trying to do is just take away all the jungler resources from RNG and further their lead.
EDG actually looking to try and see if they can push for some damage in the top lane inner turret. Xiaohu's been cut off, does have Flashmaker, flies in, has cleanse, doesn't use it, doesn't use either summoner spells there. EDG get a kill. Ray's also looking for a one-on-one in the bottom lane. Let Me's used his ultimate, so has Ray. Will heal back up slightly. Riven does win the trade, but doesn't get the kill.
Yeah, but this is going to allow EDG to push into that top tower. This should give them a couple more 1,000 gold lead when they go into that Baron fight.
RNG still trying to defend that top lane inner turret. Ray is still split pushing in the bottom lane. Haro has joined them on the top side of the map. Castle actually looking to try and jump in. It's just a fake out. Those able to jump back towards Tom Kench, go back to safety. Stops EDG from pushing any further forward for now.
Not being able to get anything back on the board for RNG. And if you look at their jungle, it's been completely taken over by EDG. They haven't taken a single camp in the past 2 minutes now.
They're able to stop them from taking red buff at least. Just Uzi steps up, and Haro says it's not worth the trade. And
Yeah,
we saw how EDG were able to try and fight back in game one. They could look for a 5-on-5 fight, but RNG was so good with spreading them out. How do RNG come back to this match? Because a 5-on-5 fight from them seems something that's near impossible with no teleport on your Vladimir.
And Vladimir doesn't even have an offensive item yet. He's still so far away from actually coming into these team fights. And with the build and the Ignite, he pretty much has to start winning this 1v1 against Riven to be of any use to his team.
He's got no Ghost as well, makes it difficult for him to try and charge into the backlines. Curious pickup here. We've talked about it for a lot of this cast, but really seems to have impacted the early game, at least for RNG. See if it does work out for them later on. Like you said, if you can start winning that 1-on-1, at least then Ray is stuck underneath his turret, and they take away one pivot, one pressure point from the map.
Yeah, he needs to do it to actually help his team at all. And here we're seeing the gold lead. He does have close to 1k gold lead. I wouldn't say enough, and a lot of gold in his back pocket, actually.
Hasn't spent it all yet. Now he's gone back to base, picked up a couple of items for himself. So Cleptomancy, as well as the CS lead he has, is helping him stay ahead of Ray, despite the single kill that the Riven's picked up. Elsewhere on the board, though, it's about 1,000 in favor of the mid lane, 500 to the jungler on the side of EDG, but bottom lane is where all the gold is currently parked for EDG, and you'd expect that from him. iBoy sitting on 9,000 to 6,500 of Uzi.
Oh, you bet Mako is walking out of that base every time with full slots on control wards. He's so far ahead of the enemy support.
Right, they're being harassed here by Let Me. Scout was waiting in the wings with Haro. Wall gets built by Talia, locking down Uzi behind his turret. Realmwalk comes in to try and keep him alive. Casa jumps in, kicks it back. Scout takes a lot of damage. He's forced to flash out, gets a big shield from Ceres Embrace, is able to survive, but still fancy footwork coming out from Lee Sin.
That's well played. They burned 3 summoners for that 1 Karsa kick. So good job by Karsa, but overall EDG is still in the driver's seat.
Even Ming was forced to use summoner spells there as well, so equal trade, but equal trades when you're behind are good for RNG. Ray's been able to pick up red buff though, looking a little bit more difficult for Let Me, who is still shoving this Riven away. There's no sustain for Ray, whereas Let Me still holds on to the sustain.
I usually wonder about Riven builds. In this situation, I actually like it if he can go for the sustain. I feel like if you have that item, you can basically nullify whatever Let Me tries to do. Let Me, the only way he's useful in this game, if he can win the 1v1. And in those extended trades, sustain help out immensely.
However, the bridging point between the outer turrets as well as the Baron spawn has only netted a 5,000 gold lead for EDG. Let Me still trying to hold on to this wave on the bottom side of the map. EDG looks like they want to try and force vision or potentially a take on towards this Baron buff. which is so difficult for Let Me to try and join. He does have a Proto Belt available. Xiaohu has swapped out for teleport, so now Let Me is looking to try and group up with the rest of the team.
They understand the situation on the map, and they're sending their only member with teleport towards the bot lane. Still, however, poking into this Baron is going to be incredibly difficult, and teams with Baron in this patch, they just win the game so easily. Only takes 7 or 8 shots from a banner minion to finish a tower.
Which Maker has been able to pick up already. However, Dematerialize is picked up by both Vladimir as well as Xiaohu. Xiaohu only has 1 charge left, 3 left for Let Me. They're looking to try and cut off Ming here. Wall gets created by Scout, looking to lock them down. Ray is in the backline flanks, not spotted out by Waz just yet, but he'll attack that one. So now they know exactly where Riven is. Being that he's going back down towards the bottom side of the map.
That was a very close escape coming from RNG, actually. If Harl managed to land any one of those axes, it would have been an easy catch.
Well, there's that banner minion. Mid lane turns really low. Mako, however, takes so much damage from it. Xiao flushes forward, and Uzi gets that last auto attack to take him down. Slowing down Ray as well. Let Me's found a flank. Has Protobell jumping on top of that. Gets on top of iBoy with a flash. Good damage on towards him. He's going to go down. Uzi gets another one for himself. RNG find a team fight, and they take down 2 members of EDG.
What an amazing play coming out from Karsa. Actually kicks Mako, front loads all of his damage. No stand united possible coming out from the support there. And they also catch Scout out of position to reverse the entire situation. That was insane.
And trust RNG to be on their side as well, because after the Cloud and the Ocean Dragon, they get an Infernal off of the first play they make against EDG. They're not out of the woods yet. They're still 3,000 gold behind this team, but it starts from this play by Karsa.
Let's take a look at it again. He finds the Q onto Mako, I believe. That's what he did. Actually does it on a minion.
Kicks him while he was trying to shadow dash back. Xiaohu locked him down. Uzi gets the last pick. And they slowly get a flank from Let Me as well.
Yeah, with the first member down, Ray knows that he can't go into the backline anymore, and Let Me dodging everything out. What's Scout doing? Scout is caught in such a bad position right there.
Oh, there you go. That seems to be the game plan there, Clement. EDG were not able to force the issue hard enough before Xiaohu gets his teleport and starts to split from the team. Let Me was allowed to group up. He gets a good flank for the squad. That brings them back closer against EDG. Not the massive lead that we saw before, but they're still the ones that are in the driver's seat right now.
Man, that's such a backward game plan, but congratulations, RNG. It still managed to work.
It's worked out for now. But this is something that we say EDG are good at, the 5-on-5 fights. They were sieging the turret, grouped up as 5, and they weren't able to execute.
Yeah, and it really was about Mako being caught out right there, trying to do the same thing he did against Karsa in their mid lane push, but he really didn't anticipate the amount of damage coming out from Xiaohu.
EDG looking like they want to try and force this Baron. One ward spots out that it's just a fake attempt, instantly cleared out by EDG, now denying vision away from RNG over this pit.
We do have to remember that Ryze can join the fight at any old moment. He does have the teleport.
But he's slowly just chipping away at this turret. Ray's being forced down to the bottom lane, not spotted out by any wards right now. Might get a flank on towards Xiaohu, takes the blast cone over.
Pops his Yomus, but I don't think he can win the 1v1.
He's a level down behind Xiaohu. Xiaohu does have the Seraph Embrace as well as a Rod of Ages complete. Merc Threads to negate any form of crowd control that comes out from Ray. And EDG say, you know what? Let's go and start this Baron once again. Can RNG stop them from taking it?
Let's check the wall from Scout.
Oh, blocks off so many members of RNG. Can they take it down in time? Because only at half health, Karsa jumps over the wall. EDG have already taken quite a bit of damage from this Baron buff. Both iBoy and Hara at half health. Uzi could probably step up here. Forces a rocket jump out of Tristana to get back to safety. During this time, Xiaohu's taken down bottom lane outer turret, and RNG regain control over the map.
A 1-3-1 without teleport is actually going to work here. What an amazing play right there. And the problem for EDG is that they didn't have enough tankiness to really stay in the Baron pit. They peeled off once they saw Karsa was over the wall.
And this strategy coming out from RNG, you know, you could say it's either a madman's theory or pure brilliance. I still think it's an absolute madman's theory at the moment, but it's working off.
Yeah,
the madness is confusing EDG.
They're getting back in the game because of those outplays. A lot of flashy plays coming out from Karsa. Sure, he didn't have a good early game, wasn't able to punish Haro, but in those situations where EDG were trying to siege, he was supreme. I'm not sure if EDG should actually try to 5v5 siege a lot of the times. If you think about their 5v5 scenario, when the enemy team is sitting underneath tower, they don't have anyone that can really go underneath the tower and tank, so it becomes a very dangerous scenario for them.
Well, the gold difference between the junglers hasn't changed. iBoy is a little bit less ahead of Uzi at the moment, 1,500 gold up there. Mid lane's dead even now. Both mid laners are completely even in this matchup, and Let Me still holds on to a much stronger lead ahead of Ray, about 1,300 gold up over this Riven.
And this is where Rise really starts to step in on his own, become that second priority mid lane pick. It's because he can split push against other mid laners and also other top laners as well. So if the side lane pressure goes to RNG, it's going to buy them enough time for Kog'Maw to get even further down his build.
So lane assignments are still going to be Riven split pushing with a Banner of Command Siege minion here. This is the last minion dematerializer for Xiao, who uses it on that Banner of Command minion. As EDG yet again make another rotation towards Baron buff, looking to regain vision control once more. They have iBoy split pushing on the top side map, knocking those minions deeper towards Let Me on that inner turret.
Yep. EDG, they basically have only one CC chain to pull off if they want to catch someone face-checking into the brush, and that's going to be Talia with Mako. If they can't finish someone off on that CC chain, they actually don't have a lot of power in this 4-man.
But they do have a lot of damage coming out from iBoy to do just that. He has his Affinity Edge, double Zeal item complete as well with the Static Shiv. Even his boots up and ready, looking towards that QSS next to negate any form of crowd control that could come out from RNG. Still playing around this Baron buff though, making sure they maintain vision control.
I do feel like RNG actually have a very easy way to check brushes with Vladimir and Tahm Kench. They can just walk in, and if something really does happen, Ming's always on the side.
Well, they try to force the issue in the mid lane and take down an inner turret, but iBoy takes so much damage from Uzi. The new blood is going up against the Otter. It's not enough. Xiaohu will be able to lock him down. That's a flash and heal being used by iBoy. Teleport gets cancelled by Ray. He now has to make the long trip up towards the top side of the map. Xiaohu will spot him out. Still has his own teleport, so he can go down and continue to split push after taking that summoner spell away from Riven.
And Xiaohu was able to do that with just his Realm Warp, so the teleport advantage actually goes to RNG at this point. Just like you were saying, Ray trying to look for a flank right there, but does get spotted out.
And look, we said iBoy has massive amounts of damage at the moment, but so does Uzi. Blade of the Ruined King, as well as a Guinsoo's Rage Blade and Hurricane picked up. If that Kog'Maw is allowed to sit and deal the damage that he can in a team fight, it's going to be devastating.
And it is about that range difference. Kog'Maw with his W can go up to 710, I believe, and then the Tristana only has 660, about 669 or 62 range. So in those situations where Kog'Maw is able to have his Bio Arcane Barrage, he can actually outrange iBoy, and this is what we've seen time and time again. He's able to find iBoy out of all EDG members and deal a lot of damage to him.
Really using his experience, Uzi. Veteran in the LPL. RNG, poor start to this match, but they're slowly pulling it back against EDG. The strategy's starting to come together, although very messy, working out. At this point in the match, it's come to a stalemate. EDG constantly try and make an attempt towards that Baron buff. RNG say no every single time and just continue to prolong this match.
Uzi really using that 50 extra range on his attack range to force away EDG time and time again. EDG at this point, they're so afraid of the flanks right now. They've tried to set up multiple times on Baron, because RNG do have that Tahm Kench, I feel like they're not taking any of the bait at all.
iBoy really respecting the magic damage that can come out from RNG as well. Going towards Hex Drinker, picks up a Vamp Sifter as well to heal off if they're able to get any of those flanks from RNG. But it seems still a little bit difficult for them to execute that without some flashy plays coming out from either Realm Warp, the Tahm Kench, or Caster jumping into the back lines. EDG, though, look like they're going to try and make the first proactive move in the bottom lane, locking down Xiaohu with both Ray as well as Scout. Good damage goes down towards this Rise. He should fall. RNG lose their split pusher, but what do they do to respond? Instead, looking for flanks in the mid lane. Uzi wants to get damage onto Mako and iBoy, who separate themselves from the team, make sure they don't take anything.
Great answer from EDG, trying to pinch down the teleporter from RNG and taking back the mid lead. Now, if we look at the respawn timers, there's still 37 seconds. That's more than enough time for EDG to set up. It's going to be a 5v4 here.
They don't leave Ray in the bottom lane. They make sure they bring the Riven towards the mid lane so they don't have to use that summoner spell. Uzi as well as Ming are stepping up, trying to deny this Riven, but EDG have already started on this Baron buff at half health now. Let Me as well as Caster looking for an opportunity to get in towards this pit. Baron's going very low. Looks like it's going to be impossible for them to go for the steal. Can they do it? Gets taken down, secured by Haro. Instead, a teamfighter erupts. Let Me tries to use the Hemo Play, doesn't get too much damage for it. The rest of EDG will take the Baron buff and head back to their base.
Such good play coming out from EDG, and this is going to change the story completely. In the previous few minutes, they weren't able to siege, but now they have that Bannon minion with them. It's very easy to set up in front of a team. RNG are going to have to walk into EDG, and they're not going to have a lot of time to do so. They're going to have to pull off a flank before that cannon fires 7 times.
They need to have Let Me wherever the cannon is going to be. Still has 3 of his minion dematerializers, and that will be enough to stop the next few Baron pushes if he hasn't gotten rid of that item just yet. EDG still can work with the Baron buff even without their Banner of Command minion to push through for these objectives. That was the objective that they were hovering over for the past 10 minutes.
Yeah, and they finally found an answer and a way to do it. Great play there from EDG, understanding that Xiaohu was going to be trying to push, trying to do a split push. Also a very good play in their mid lane where they backed off instantly.
There's the Banner of Command minion. Let Me is on the top lane at the moment. So if they're able to walk this in towards the turret, we'll be able to get good damage on towards it. Instead, they've caught out Haro. Forced to use the Ragnarok, goes very low. Ming's trying to see if he can lock down that minion, but Uzi wants to step up and get damage as well. Slowly chipping away. Ray and Let Me are going out on the top side of the map. Ray looking to dive in towards the inhibitor turret. Let Me force to use the ultimate to heal back up. Gives Ray enough time to take down that turret. And mid lane inhibitor is going to be broken by EDG as well. RNG can't quite defend against this Baron right now.
That was really good from Ray. Oh, but Karsa comes in!
His kick scout in towards the base, instantly flashes back over, starts a team fight for the team, and he pays for it with his life. EDG are going full force straight towards RNG's base. They return the favor, they take it down. Scout rides the wall, but gives Uzi a double kill. Boys into the backlines, jumps into a top catch, into the Nexus. He's killed Uzi! Boy takes down the veteran. It's going to die to the Akathia's surprise, but EDG win the team fight.
Yeah, and they will get the inhibitor as a consolation prize right there. Good reaction times all over the board, but only just a big mistake from Scout right there. If he managed to keep himself alive, I actually think EDG had a chance to end on this push.
Potentially, Iboy as well. If he could stay alive there, that definitely would have been EDG picking up the win, but they break the base. They get 2 turrets for themselves and the inhibitor.
Oh, that was such quick reaction from Karsa, but good reaction time from Scout as well. Manages to keep himself alive, but the big mistake from the Talia, riding the wall in. He already had them trapped. He could have had Iboy just finish off. He should have hopped off the wall a bit earlier, but instead gets himself killed right there. Iboy with the hero plays, however, going through Uzi.
He tries to stay alive as well instead of jumping forward to pick up that kill onto Rise. Still had his heal available as well. During that fight, we also saw Karsa miss his Sonic Wave, which was unfortunate. Could have got back into his base if Scout's flash was not able to get out on time. That cost him his life there, but still big play coming out from the jungle of RNG. EDG still get the upper hand though.
Yeah, that was good play all around the board. And the setup to the fight, I think, was very well done by Ray. He knew that he wouldn't win the 1v1, but all he wanted to do was deny the flank coming in from Let Me, pin him underneath the turret, and make sure there's a 4v4 with a Bannon in the mid lane. And EDG do get the better because of it.
And now as we move towards the late game team fights, the damage kind of reassures as well. It's all eyes on Uzi as well as Iboy. This is where we thought the matchup was going to take place. And now as we get in towards the late game, those are the 2 carries to watch out for in these team fights. They separate Uzi. He has no flash available. Ming has to save him, but he gets flicked back and taunted. They get the taunt at the top catch as well. Mako deletes the veteran from RNG without an AD carry. EDG should be able to walk into the base.
That was accidentally genius from Mako. Manages to stun 2 people, taunt 2 people, excuse me, and deny the Tom Kench save there from Ming.
And they're not even going to go towards the bottom lane. EDG are just piling into the mid lane, trying to end the game right here. 30 seconds until Uzi's back up and alive. They still have 4 members, but they have to put up a last stand.
It's going to be all about Xiaohu. He's the only one with enough damage on this team. Let Me doesn't have the flank anymore.
Buster shot comes out from Iboy, knocking back the tanks. Xiaohu trying to go toe-to-toe against Haro, forces the Ragnarok, but the Nexus turrets have fallen. They're going for the Hail Mary play. 1 kill for Iboy. Stand United keeping him alive as well. Ming's going to fall, and suddenly you see flashbacks everywhere. Flashbacks everywhere, Clement, because they're taking him down. A triple kill. And did you say, you know what happened last split? Do you remember Summer Split? It's happening again. We're going to game 3.
Do you remember the reverse split, reverse sweep RNG? Because here it is. It's coming back again. The Crownless King. I know, Uzi, you have that feeling. You have that feeling in your gut. Is it going to happen once more?
Interesting strategies coming out from RNG, but still this match was all about EDG. 2-on-2 plays going their way in the bottom lane. Able to swap things up, playing more towards the top side of the map. Haro had a much better game on the Olaf as well.
It really was about the front from the top lane. They were kind of signaling that they were going to go top with the Riven and the Olaf, but it was just a facade. They were actually going to go bot with the Taliyah, and that's the crucial pick that I think swung the entire matchup. Mid and jungle are so important in 8.4. It doesn't matter who wins out on the bot lane as long as your mid lane comes there first.
RNG had a decent strategy though. It was interesting. No teleport on a Vladimir.
Interesting.
With an Ignite in the top lane. Was able to scale up, swapped around for a Rise to go into that split push matchup. And it brought them back into the match. They were 2,000 gold behind EDG before they were able to actually get the pick on the split pusher with creative use of Scout. As well as Ray's teleport.
But if you think about it, if he had Unsealed Spellbook, they would have had a 1-3-1, and it wouldn't have mattered if Taliyah was able to pinch bot lane because they could have a numbers advantage at Baron. I still don't think that strategy is very good. I would like to see an explanation and see him swap to Unsealed Spellbook.
Yeah, because the Vladimir pick, you know, had a couple of times where he could get the flank. Ghost would have been fantastic there. Yeah. Teleports into the backlines would have been fantastic as well. Didn't see too much from it. It was creative from RNG, but this time EDG, it was all about how they wanted to play. They were able to get towards those 5v5 fights in the late game as well.
Especially Mako on his Shen, I think it has too much impact on the map. I think you ban that out. It's his signature.
You can't let Mako pick up the champion, especially when it's flex between him and Ray. Ray has shown that he can go back towards top lane tanks and be a facilitator if his team needs to. And anytime a champion that is able to have so much pressure across the map against a team like RNG that want to split up the map, it's just something you can't allow EDG to pick up.
Basically, yeah. I think it's fine if they give Cassiopeia over to Scout. I don't think he's going to do much with that pick, to be honest. But giving them Shen, giving them Taliyah, those are bigger problems for RNG.
Instead, Scout was able to pick up Taliyah and get a good game number 2, which EDG were able to pick up. We're going to go into game 3 shortly, but first let's send it back to the analyst desk to break it down.
Thank you, Fish. And it feels like some of those flashbacks are starting to set in there. We just saw Uzi at the end of that game, and honestly, we've seen this situation before, and so has Uzi. But let's go ahead and start this one off with some of the picks that we saw in this game, and we got to see Ray back on his Riven.
Like I said, it's about the adaptation. We saw the 1-3-1 from RNG. Guess what? They pretty much went for a 1-3-1 again. Yeah, maybe some maybe some issues up there with the Keystone. I mean, we talk about the mechanical skill of the LPL, but you know, it gets really hard to open up your rune page, click the correct rune, click the correct summoner spell. But the idea was there from RNG. Whereas EDG, they had the adaptation, they had the champion pool to say, Ray, no more tanks. You're going back to Riven.
Yeah, and what I love about this is that they must have heard Clement, they must have heard us on the desk. Something, you go into the back and you realize we were getting pushed in so early in the last game. How about new theme, everybody gets priority. Mid lane gets priority, bottom lane gets priority, top lane, you just have a good matchup. So like, the Riven was fantastic in that sense, and you get the happy little accident of the Vladimir going Klepto with Ignite, so the laning phase, he's like, I guess it kind of worked out for Vladimir, realizing he had a 2k gold lead, but then you realize that, wait a minute, I just don't have TP. So with all of the pressure going towards Baron, there is no way for him to be able to match the bottom lane. Baron can't...
couldn't alleviate it.
Exactly. So the bannered minions kept hitting it down to the bottom lane. He had some of the dematerializers, wasn't able to use it.
And before we get ahead of ourselves, it did start off in the early game as well when we look towards the bottom lane. The fact that EDG were able to open up the game, and then that just means that the bottom lane is completely unlocked from the early game.
Yeah, we said it on the cast, we're going to echo it on the desk. It was the fact that if you unlock Mako, the captain, the shot caller of EDG, he's also on a champion like Shen that has so much global presence. I believe it was, what, like an 8-minute dive on bottom before the tower then fell, and Mako is then everywhere on the map. He was up into the top lane, he was in the mid lane, he was styling everyone.
Yeah, it was a bit of a domino procedure, just because mid lane, when that dive went through, it was a 2v2 mid that sent Rise packing to his base, so that, okay, let's go towards the bottom lane, let's get that rolling. And when that finally happened, when this play was, you know, you could go for that play because Shen was available for mid lane. And then guess what? Ray was realizing that he can go onto this onto Let Me on the Vladimir top lane. And the best thing about picking Shen in the bottom lane is that you can facilitate the top lane fights. The Shen ulti comes through ultimately, and the dive is so much easier. Sure, Ray took the extra damage from the tower, but the shield made it count.
Yeah, and one of the only trade-offs of EDG's composition is that they didn't have a traditional tank. Because it was Shen's support, he didn't have the gold to build up their tanky stats. I believe Banner of Command for item priority there. And so it did delay their Baron quite significantly because they didn't have a tanky member that they felt they could take it early enough safely. And then you also had the issue where Riven was really struggling in the 1v1 because while she did do well and very dominant in the lane phase, she actually didn't have any kill pressure when it came to 1-3-1 or 1-4 in a side lane against either Vladimir or Rise.
Yeah, and that did allow EDG, or rather RNG, to come back into the game against EDG pretty much throughout outplays coming into that game, because up until the 20-minute mark, that was a perfect game. No towers, no kills, no dragons over to RNG, so played it very well. But as you said, it was a struggle in the bot lane, but going back to Raz's point earlier, you can't have Vladimir down in the bottom lane forever when he's gone and kleptomancy with no teleport.
So that's why Baron was such a big picture play for EDG, just because ultimately Riven, even though she's not going to be able to take the 1v1 versus Vladimir underneath his own tower, doing a really good job of freezing underneath that tower, but she knew at the end of the day, play patiently enough, be able to go up against the Rise, go up against the Vladimir, that she had the teleport. If Rise comes bound to the bottom side of the map, you can make it worthwhile, and I think the pick that ended up causing the Baron was ultimately the way that won the game.
Yeah, it was about using the mobility of Riven and not her 1v1 kill pressure. So this was the defining moment of the game. They make the pick onto the Rise, and that doesn't just mean that they have the 4v5 pressure advantage to take the Baron. It means that when they have the Baron, at this point the Maw will be completed, it's just a Hex Drinker right then, and Riven will also have the Baron buff. So while she still doesn't technically have the kill pressure, she has safety in the lane, and then she can start bouncing between waves and really start setting up other opportunities for EDG to apply pressure and just chokehold RNG.
Yeah, and it also made it easier for Talia to get more effectiveness off of the Weaver's walls, because previously sending the Weaver's wall
straight
out
to the enemy team.
Exactly. I mean, that was fun. So I enjoyed that one. I'd like that a little bit later on. But of course, the effectiveness of being able to take down towers much more easily, isolate Kog'Maw as well. So the picks, especially the one in the bottom side of the map, opening the team fights, opening the game. So great play from Scout to allow that to happen.
And it goes back to the two identities of these teams. RNG are excellent at executing skirmishes. They have great individual superstars. Karsa, Xiaohu, and Uzi come to mind. EDG, the macro team. You know, they have a composition like this. You get excited about the Riven, but it's about the Talia wall placement. It's about the Tristana siege. It's about how Riven is bouncing between waves and setting up siege opportunities for them. So very different ways that both these personalities are attacking the game.
Yeah, and one thing, I'm just going to shine a little bit of a light on Karsa, because even though that game seemed very clean in the sense that we were talking about it possibly being a perfect game, it felt like EDG didn't want to burn it.
So much respect to Karsa.
Yeah, they didn't want to burn the Baron because he was literally hopping over the wall because he's Lee Sin, and he could have access towards the Baron. Because the moment he did that, they were like, okay, we're backing up. We're not going to allow that to happen. And there were two opportunities when EDG were trying to siege upon the mid lane towers, and he was able to get two beautiful kicks. So it feels like Karsa was able to hold down the line for so long.
Yeah, right. Great stuff from Karsa. And also it was, as you said, Frosk, about the supporting cast. It wasn't just about Ivor. You see the flashy plays. He's jumping into the base, getting the resets, but it is about how those plays open up. And some of that was from Scout as well, who will be taking our MVP, our man of the match, will be Scout in this one on his Talia.
Gasp. Okay. I would have thought it would have gone to Mako if I could phone that one in. Hello, LPL? Yeah, it should have gone to Mako. That's fine. Scout picks it up. He was pretty core to that composition and how it worked. Using the ultimate, he used it beautifully on Baron twice. Also used it when he wasn't riding the wall into certain death to help break the mid lane tower.
And here's the thing about this, because it feels like maybe there's a disagreement for me because I love the Talia pick. Maybe.
There's a hard. This is hard.
Maybe.
Hard no.
And that's where it comes down to, because EDG played so well across the line. Of course, you're right that Mako was able to do so much for his team, but also the Talia was very integral in being able to secure Baron. Of course, we talked about the roaming towards the bottom side of the map. Great call from him. And then we utilized, of course, the Weaver's Wall ultimately to get those towers. So I'll say, if there is a game to get two, just split up the trophies, cut it in half, this game.
Mako gets the bigger half.
Oh no.
Mako gets
Wait
the
a
bigger
minute.
half. Okay. Let's bring this back to RNG and how they move into this third game, because it seems like the adaptation came out from EDG in this one. As you said, had priority in those lanes, had a stranglehold over the early game right here. What do RNG look towards?
Take teleport.
Wonderful, Raz.
Teleport.
Wonderful. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Just take teleport into the top lane. That's what you got to do, because that does change the dynamic of the game. We'll see if they do it heading into game 3. We are going to take a quick break, so stick with us. We'll be back after this.